Hey, Alex, great that you can join us. For people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a marketing nerd. I would say I'm a marketing nerd and wannabe athlete. I grew up mostly in the athletic realm, playing football, and never saw myself like becoming a marketer. I always loved business, and it was always something I wanted to pursue down the road. And then I tinkered in marketing when I was like 19, 20, and I fell in love with it. And it actually came from originally like traveling and meeting people and meeting like getting into like different cultures and kind of from that, I fell in love with marketing because with marketing, you could do the same thing in many ways, meaning you could connect great people to great brands and kind of build these bonds. And so I kind of, that's how I dove into marketing. But from there, I started an agency called Social First, which was a local agency here in Austin. I'll dive into it more later, but it started as a social agency, then a transition to becoming an ad agency. I did that for 3 years. Then I joined The Hustle for a year. Then we were acquired by HubSpot. And then I left The Hustle to focus entirely on Marketing Examined and building that out. And then I joined Gumroad because Gumroad has a completely async work culture where like there's no meetings, there's no deadlines, and you don't have to like be on call, as they say. And so
Yeah,
with that, I was able to like, and on top of that, you only work 15, 20 hours a week. So I'm able to work Gumroad, right? Like when I
sounds like
want and
heaven.
use, yeah, and like use Gumroad to fund Marketing Examined. So that was like why I transitioned over to doing that. But right now, yeah, building out Marketing Examines, what I religiously spent or why I religiously spend so much time behind a keyboard. But yeah, man, that's a little bit about me.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I was surprised because I know you from Twitter and the things you've done for the Hustle and now Gumroad. But I was just checking your LinkedIn profile, and fresh out of school, you started your own business, which
Yeah.
is not a lot of people do that. Run us through that. What happened?
Yeah, so I think it's in my DNA a little bit. My dad is an immigrant and from Cuba. He came from Cuba when he was 24, and he started his own company. And so, like, called Enerpower, which is an industrial supply. So he's an engineer, but he does an industrial distribution, and so he started his own company called Enerpower. And so, growing up, I only saw him build something. And I saw him run it, and this is, I think, maybe something that's like inherently in immigrants, but I saw him run it as like a one man shop. Like I got it. Like I don't need any help, and so I just watched him do that, and so I actually tinkered with building other things as I was growing up. So I'll give you an example. When, like I told you, I was huge into athletics, big into I played college football, and I was huge into weight training. That was like I when I was younger, I really wanted to build out a facility for athletes, and so at the time, I couldn't afford weight weight training equipment because it's
Yeah,
expensive, right?
yeah,
Like any
yeah.
weight training equipment is very expensive, could be thousands of dollars. And so what I did was my dad and I we learned how to weld and like we learned how to cut metal, we learned how to do that, and so I started building my own weightlifting equipment, like pretty like
Cool.
heavy duty machinery. And then so like
Yeah,
because of my dad's background, et cetera, he was able to teach me that. But we were also able to get like a steel on the metal, like for very cheap because he used to work at some factory when he first came to America. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a business opportunity. Like I could
yeah.
manufacture this at home in my backyard, literally like weld and like have these tables out here and like build all this weightlifting equipment, and then I could sell it. And so I didn't even like process what I was doing at the time, but I'm like, I started building a small business. It was called Conjugate Fitness Training Equipment. I think it was something like that. If you go on Instagram, like you'll literally
Cool.
see old things that I built and would sell and whatnot. And I think this was like 2012 or something like that. And this was like before I started realizing I kind of had like these like marketing chops, or like I liked marketing, and because I noticed, and I only do this like connecting the dots previously, was that I was using Instagram as like this channel to actually sell all the equipment. I would like find
Yeah.
different gyms and whatnot on Instagram, and then I'd use like a scraper and pull their emails from LinkedIn and like cold email. And I'm not even kidding. Like at whatever age I was, 17, 18, I was making like $700 to $1,000 a weekend just doing this. And so I would say like that was my
Wow.
first like kind of
Cool.
uh, like little thing that made me fall in love with business and building something. And then so I went to college and I stopped playing football. And when I stopped playing football, that's when I kind of had like this weird identity crisis. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my whole identity was wrapped in sports. And so that's when I kind of mentioned that I started traveling and like experiencing different cultures, meeting new people. And I really started becoming a content creator on the side of photography and videography. And so that's kind of how it first started. Was I started just kind of diving into making travel videos and like those little like tinkering in that world. And then I started falling in love kind of with, okay, like you could do product videos, you could do like all sorts of different types of video work and content work for different brands. And
Cool.
so I started like first doing it for free for different brands here in Austin, tinkering with it, seeing how the market responds to it, how it drives business, how it their customers respond to it. And then after seeing it was successful, I turned it into an agency, and it first became a social media agency where we started working with local brands here in Austin, Texas, on all their social media needs. From there, then it scaled to becoming a performance ad agency where we then just focused on ad work for different clients. And so within a 3 year span, we worked with 30 plus different brands. And it started from first like local brands, like our first client was like a coffee shop here in Austin. And then it scaled to brands like On It, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, but like brands like On It that
Cool.
are now, larger. They got acquired recently and whatnot. But then after 3 years, I was kind of like, I just don't like the agency space. Like that's not for me. I like to create content. I like more so the media side of things. And so when the pandemic hit, and like a lot of clients were just like put on hold or put us on hold as well, it was like, well, this is actually I just got like
Perfect
the
storm.
perfect, yeah, like I got the perfect bridge to start something new, to start
Yeah.
something different and to go down different avenues. And so I did.
And by then, did you like hire people, or was it still a one man show, or
No,
what
yeah,
did you do?
sorry. So yes, hired content creators, and so those different creators would be assigned to different clients depending on their needs. And then on my end, I kind of handled all the paid media efforts, and then I had a developer that was kind of building out the landing pages or building out the funnels, et cetera, for clients. And so that's
No.
kind of how we did it there. The way I did it initially was the way I even got first clients. This could be interesting. Was I didn't have like capital up front to pay anybody, so I hired like a salesperson to do cold emails and like literally door to door in Austin, and then I gave them a large split off their first retainer. So if they
Yeah.
landed like a client, they were getting $1,000 from that first client. And then at the beginning, I was like, until we get 10 clients, you're also going to get like 100 or some, yeah, I think $100, $150 a month per client that you bring in. So that it was like an added bonus. Because I was like 21, so I didn't know how am I going to convince this 30-year-old to go, you know
To
what I mean,
come
like
work
to
for you.
go, yeah, to work for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, and so that's how I did it. And then and it worked, and then it scaled. And then I think after like the 12, 15 client mark, it was kind of word of mouth from there. It was just everything built from or grew from clients referring us to other clients. But what I hated is just like I don't like to be talking all day to people, right? Like like you'll
Yeah.
have sometimes like things could be going right, but you could still have like five people complaining to you, and like that's just not my that's not where I would
Yeah.
thrive. And
Yeah.
that's why then I when the pandemic hit, it was like this perfect time to, okay, I could go do something else because like I have the best excuse in the world. There's a pandemic happening. And
Yeah.
so that's when I decided, okay, I want to kind of not ditch the agency, but let go of the agency, like let go of the romanticism, like attached to that, and focus on something else. And so from there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna join a startup. Let me understand how startups scale. Let me understand how they work. And so I was already a reader of the Hustle, um, and so I saw that they actually had a position opening at the time for a social role. And I was like, oh well, this is perfect. Like I just
Perfect.
built an
Yeah.
agency completely around social media and then ad, and I knew that would be my foot in, and so I applied to the job, and I think like 2 weeks later started it, and I don't know if you want me to continue from there, but
Yeah. Did you? How did your job application look like? How did you do that?
um, let me think. I I think what the main thing that I did differently was I just designed I like literally put like creative elements in my resume. So I wanted something to stand out. Most resumes are very boring, and I think like what marketers are good at are is standing out, right? Like you got to be able to stand out and see of sameness and not be like every other bottle at like a grocery store, right? Like you go to the supplement store or the supplements, or you're trying to buy vitamins and like they all look the same. Well, if you can make one look a little different, it's like, well, your eyes are going
Yeah.
to be drawn there. So I kind of looked at my resume in the same way and just try to do a few little different things. And then I think the thing that got everyone on board was they gave us an assignment for like to tackle, and that's kind of where I
Yeah.
hit it.
Yeah.
I hit it out of the park. Just like with on the content development side, and I remember them telling me that. So I got interviewed by like 6 or 7 different people, which
Wow.
was insane. It was like an extensive
Tough.
interview
Yeah.
process. And I remember at the end of it, they told me that so there was like 400 or 500 different applicants. They told me that and I don't say this to like toot my own horn, but they told me that every single one picked me. And so, as their like favorite candidate. And so that was like a great, feeling to have and whatnot. But no, I joined the hustle to learn how to grow a media company, right? They were one of the best in the world, or they are one of the best in the world. And so I got to witness firsthand a bunch of great people do great things.
Cool.
Um,
And maybe back up still a little bit because
sure.
I imagine that a lot of people, I've hired a bunch of people. I've seen like a wide range of how people apply. Some people
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, this is something for me. I want this job," as opposed to others saying, bringing really something to the table. Hey, I've created this and this. Please have a look. What do you
Yeah.
think? How did you approach your assignment?
I took my assignment like if I was going to hire myself, what would I have to do to impress myself? And so when they really just wanted to take like for me to take like a piece of a newsletter it was at the time, like here, take this newsletter piece and turn it into pieces of content. And I went above and beyond. Like I categorized my content. I was like, okay, well, here's some that's going to be informational and it's going to be broken down in video form. Then here's some that are going to be like carousels. Here's some that would be more comedic. Here are some that will be more like meme format. And I basically broke them down into different categories, what a consumer would get out of these categories. So one would be, like I said, like kind of, I remember one that stood out big was, it was something for, I think it was like Bud Light Seltzer. They like, yeah, it was Bud Light Seltzer, and it was like something about them hitting like record sales or like beating White Claw or something like that. And that was like one of the blurbs from that newsletter. And so what I did was
Oh,
I knew Post Malone, for example, was like a big ambassador for Bud Light Seltzer, and I found this clip of him dancing with like Bud Light Seltzer from a music video, and so like I used that as like the clip
that
then with
became a
like
meme.
different information, yeah, different information that was like going. So it was like this 15-second clip, and it was like a great way to present it, and I knew that would like kind of stand out. I knew most people wouldn't try to think of, okay, well, who's associated with this brand and how can I leverage their personality or what they do to make this information digestible and fun and fun to consume. So that was one, but yeah, it was you have to approach whatever the assignment is. You have to approach it in a way that's like, okay, the other person on like the person interviewing you or asking for this has to be able to look at what you're doing for them and find value in it. Because if they don't find value in it, then the job that they're going to hire you for, you're not going to be able to provide value to the external people that you need to provide value for. So it's kind of like this mindset is, if I can impress them with providing enough value in an assignment, then I know they're going to want to bring me on for the job.
Yeah, cool, cool. And you stay there for a year. How was it
Yeah.
like? What were like the highs and the lows?
Yeah. So when I joined the hustle, I have my good friends Adam Ryan, who is the president or was the president at the hustle. Now started Work Week, which I'm not sure if you've seen on Twitter, but
No.
I told myself I would be there for a year. Like, and the reason being was because, like I told you, I kind of have like these entrepreneurship chops, and I want to do things outside of it. I don't like to be like like stuck at a job. And so it was amazing. It was very fast paced. What I learned was you if you have an idea, you have to take that idea and test it really fast. If it works, then you scale it, and if it doesn't work, then you ditch it and you move on and you keep doing it. That's kind of the main thing I learned. I joined at a weird time, so I joined at like the height of the pandemic, so I wasn't able to be in the office and be around a bunch of people as much as I wanted. But no, it was amazing. It was amazing to see them to see the team scale the hustle, scale trends, and then for us to then get acquired in February by HubSpot. I think that was like a very interesting process. And then like I started on a social role, then I got promoted to then a marketing manager role and helping build out my first million, and working closely more so with the growth team before leaving, because like I said, like marketing exam started taking off and getting momentum, and it was like, okay, I have something on my hands that it's better to act now on it than to wait and let it die down and not and try to like resurface it, resurrect its momentum. And so I decided to leave there. But no, man, that whole team is amazing. It's a team full of superstars that really know what they're doing and know how to grow things. And so like it was amazing to learn from them, hear from them, and see everybody, including myself, like just take things from A to B, B to C, and ongoing.
Cool. I think a lot of people, they have their own newsletter right now.
Yeah.
You can't really say that. I guess Trends is a newsletter, but it's a big part of that is I guess the newsletter. What are things that really help scale that part of the business? What did you do in
Like
tests and see?
trends specifically, or what are you saying?
Yeah, or the hustle in general. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the main thing is this, like what the hustle does well, what trends does well is they create an expectation in the consumer's mind, right? Where when you open up the hustle specifically, you're going to get like witty business news every single day. And I think that's the main thing with newsletters that stick right now is that you have to create this expectation in sorry, I dropped water on my hoodie and now it's standing out, but
No
you have
worries.
to create the expectation in the consumer's mind that this is what I deliver every time. So that's why I think like James Clear's newsletter does really well, the 321, because every time this newsletter hits your inbox, you know what you're going to get, right? I think that's what I try to do with Market Examine. That's what Sean Perry tries to do with his. Trends did the same thing with their newsletter, where it's like every time you open a trends newsletter, you're going to be getting delivered business ideas. I think that's the first thing. You have to make your newsletter sticky, right? I think then what the hustle did very well was they used the hustle to bridge to use the hustle as like a bridge to get paying members, which is now what I'm doing. For example, with Marketing Examined, is I'm using the hustle as my bridge to get paid members for Growth Marketing Examined. And that's the best thing. I wrote about this yesterday in the newsletter that went out. Is for paid members is that newsletters are bridges to infinity, meaning your newsletter is a bridge to building a relationship with a customer that you can't build elsewhere. It's a written TV show in many ways. The same way somebody would sit down to watch The Bachelor at Tuesday at 8 p.m. Your newsletter is the same thing. That's how I try to envision your newsletter. You don't just think of it as like what's something I could get in their inbox. No, it's something. This is your newsletter is something that you make part of someone's life. And so the more that you can make your newsletter a part of someone's life that they look forward to, the stickier it's going to be, and the better you're going to be able to use it to bridge to wherever else you're trying to
That's interesting.
build.
Yeah, so it's basically like a TV format. It needs structure so people have something to look forward to.
Exactly.
But besides the structure, there needs to be a lot of juice in there. So how do you get that in there?
Like the actual content, or like building out,
No.
like getting subscribers.
Well, first, like, how do you select the content? How do you yeah, know what's good and what's not? Do you A/B test also parts of the content, or how do you select things?
Yeah. So I think the best way was to really Twitter. Twitter's like for me, it's like my testing grounds. I test things on Twitter. If it sticks on Twitter, then most likely it's going to stick in a scaled format in my newsletter, is how I see it. The other thing was when I first started Marketing Examine, all I was doing was taking my threads and turning them into a newsletter. And then once that I kind of had like my moment of I was done writing my, like I did this 50 threads over 50 days thing. And then once I was done with that, I knew, okay, well, I got to create that expectation. It can't just be these threads anymore. And so I had to find a format that, again, like was valuable and that was bringing value anytime you opened it. And so I started testing within the email, different formats, different content formats. So I first started 5 Tactic Tuesday, where I would like take copywriting and give 5 tactics based on copywriting. They did well, but then on Thursdays I would send what's called a Thursday teardown, where it was like this like mini deep dive case study on any brand and like something that they did that was extraordinary, like a real world class marketing strategy or tactic that they used. What I noticed was 5 Tactic Tuesday had a higher unsubscribe rate than Thursday teardowns. What I also noticed was my the open rate was higher as well on Thursday teardowns and 5 Tactic Tuesdays. And then the main thing was I got way more replies on the Thursday teardowns than the 5 Tactic Tuesdays. Once I started noticing that more people were replying to this email, then I was like, okay, I got something on my hands. This is much more valuable. People like this more. It's like these very condensed case studies in their inbox. They see something that's been done by another company, proven, and then I teach you how to replicate it for your company. And so that was kind of how I tested it. And then eventually I ditched the 5 Tactic Tuesday because I was like, people, not that they're not getting value from it, but even when I asked readers, like, what would you rather have? Most of them said they'd rather have the Thursday teardown, right? They knew what to expect in that. Like every Thursday they would get like these mini case studies. And it wasn't that 5 Tactic Tuesday wasn't good. It just wasn't great. And I'd rather have something great in your inbox because that's going to make you want to open the next email.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so we with Hypefury, we have like collected about 5,000 emails so far, and we're emailing another 5,000 people who subscribe to us in the past couple of years. So we have at least 11,000 people emailing. And yeah, I can see also like when we email our growth notes, unsubscribe rate is low. We get a bunch of replies. Now we want to test a new thing, but we're pretty slow, I'd say. Yeah, we've not really changed our structure of growth notes.
Yeah.
How would we change something like that? How would we know what to improve, what to remove?
Sure. Take your unsubscribe. This is, I think, what I would do. I would take whatever my least engaged audience is, and I would test like a series of 4 different emails on them. So like get 4 different ideas and send it to them and see if they open it and see if they respond. If your most unsubscribed or most unengaged subscribers engage with your content or engage with it, reply to it, or find it delighting, then that's what I would roll with. And then I would test it on like a bigger group of people, maybe like your individuals that like engage with 25 to 75% of your emails. Test it on them. Like take the top 2 and test it on a bigger scale. And then whatever is the winning piece, then now you deliver it to everybody ongoing. But that's how I would do it. That's how I like test like subject lines, for example, is I test them all on my least engaged audience, because if it's going to work on them, then I know it's going to work on my most engaged audience.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. Cool. And so we're all fighting for attention. You're fighting for attention with Marketing Exam, and so are we. I don't know if it was the CEO of Netflix who said that, but like other movies aren't our competitors. It's like, I don't know, going to the groceries or going out with friends. It's just everything is actually your competitor. So we want to look into, okay, how can we get people seeing Hypefury more and more, but we still want to stay relevant. And I think a lot of people want that. They want to be in front of people's eyes more, but how can they do that? What would be your tactic?
I think the biggest thing to improve for nearly any like piece of content is like the time to value. So how fast can you get value in front of somebody? That's something that I think, I don't remember who said it specifically, but they were talking about social networks, like the how fast you could get someone to value, in the sense of how fast can you get them entertained. When I think of content, I think it's the same thing. It's like how fast can you get someone to either be entertained or educated. And if you could quickly start doing that, then you build a reputation within that person's mind or subconsciously that my content is valuable to you. And if you could do that over the series of 2 or 3 times, you make an actual impression. Like it's not just an impression, you're making an actual impression that then is going to get like my biggest thing is like your content is like a retention play. I think that's something that people don't think of. They think of it as like an attention play, but it's really a retention play. And so the better you can make your content, the more you're going to retain someone. The more you retain someone, the more you're going to increase your chances of them sharing it or talking to someone else about it. And so the biggest thing for me is like using my time to value to improve my retention so that then I could increase my potential to get attention. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And then I
Cool.
think like other things is like you got to find, if you're trying to grow in like a platform specifically, you got to find the platform's growth content is what I call it. It's like the type of content that a platform favors, the algorithm favors, and that you focus your strategy all on that content. So like Twitter, it's Twitter threads. People know now that you could grow on Twitter really fast, writing really, really good threads. But on TikTok, it's using trending sounds and trending sounds and like there's one other, I don't know why I'm blanking on, but then YouTube, it's like having a 7 to 10 minute video. On Instagram, it's Instagram Reels. So if you're trying to create content and you're only posting pictures on Instagram, it's like, dude, that was 2017. You have to figure out what they're favoring right now and optimize for that. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you have to find whatever platform really your audience lives on, and then optimize all of your content for its growth content, meaning whatever the algorithm of that platform favors, create all your content around that so that you're growing much faster than if you're creating content that you're hoping the algorithm's going to pick up. But if it's already favors something, just complement it. Don't try to rewrite what it's doing. Just complement what it's already favoring. And I think that's like what you'll see now is like a lot of people growing on Twitter with Twitter threads because the algorithm favors that.
Yeah.
That's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Nice. And then I think a lot of people, I think like you're the better version of me. I've been doing this for a decade, but I have a sense that you're way ahead of things that I've been doing for a while. And I think a lot of people would benefit from knowing, what's like your content diet. What do you consume? Where do you get your ideas from? So people can learn from that.
Yeah, so I would say that this has been the best thing that I've done for myself is every day I have to learn one thing relative to marketing that makes me a better marketer. And so I have this doc or Notion page, and every day I attach the one, whether it's a link, it's a tweet, it's an article, it's a blog post, it's an Instagram post, whatever it is that I took value from, I learned something from, and I add it there. And it's basically, and then I write what it taught me. And so every day I know that I'm getting better, right? There's like that I think James Clear constantly talks about like becoming 1% better every day. I just took that and was like, okay, well, here's how I'm going to become 1% better marketer every day. Is like if I actually learn something, and this is like eventually it becomes like a 5-minute routine that makes you way better at your craft. So I would say that's the main thing I do content diet wise, because I actually try not to consume that much content on Twitter or Instagram or whatever channel, just because it's such a distraction during the day. But the main thing
how do you decide to, how do you learn a new thing? You have to, you can't make up a new thing. You have to, I guess, see that somewhere or have a book lying somewhere or.
For sure. And that's where I scour the web a lot. And I do, I'm not saying I don't spend time on Twitter, but I'm very selective with my time on Twitter. And I'm selective with when I'm trying to find content. So I'll use, I think it's called the Freedom app, where like I'll block most of my day with the Freedom app and block like social networks. And then I'll have like this 2-3 hour span throughout the day where it's like open, because it actually like blocks the API and won't let it load. And so I'll block these networks.
No notifications.
Yeah, like I'll block it and it just won't work. And so when I will scour the web and I'll try to find, there's like, certain people I either have them on my list or I just search their content, see what they like. Because you could go on someone's Twitter profile and see what they like and those kind of things, because I'm trying to find the best content in the shortest amount of time. And then I have because like I was telling you, like I link everything. Those places a lot of times are like libraries of content. So I'll go back and revisit different web pages a lot that have exceptional content, because most likely if they have one piece, they're going to have multiple other pieces of exceptional content. So um, that's definitely one another fun trick. And this is like on YouTube, if you like find a video that you like, or that's like very informational, just let YouTube run by itself and play other videos, because most likely YouTube's algorithm is so good that it's going to find other videos that's like covering that same topic. So I've done this with growth marketing. Like I listened to like a video of like Andrew Chen talking about growth marketing, and then like the next video was another great video, and I didn't touch anything. So that's another like little tip that I would say is like let YouTube do its thing, because it will
Oh,
deliver really good content. Um,
nice one.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think even sometimes like my content diet something I need to improve, and that's why I even lock my phone, is because like sometimes I do spend too much time like kind of looking at not nonsense, but like content that's not making me better. And I know not every piece of content or everything you consume has to be something that makes you better, right? Like sometimes it's just fun to be entertained, but sometimes you don't understand how long you're being entertained. And that's when,
Mm.
it can negatively impact your day. And then I've realized too that the less I'm on my phone, the more like my just the more my creative juices will go. And I think that's like something that's almost like you force yourself to think about things in ways that you're not thinking about when you're constantly entertained. Like we're almost like not used to being bored, and so when you are bored or unattached, man, the things that will come to your head is like insane. The
Yeah.
ideas, and I've my best ideas have literally come when like my phone is away from me. So,
Yeah,
but
that's a very good tip for a lot of people, I think.
thank you.
Yeah, I have probably hundreds of bookmarks in my browser, but I never visit them. I
Yeah.
don't remember why I bookmarked something, so I guess I have to start revisiting them and then keep a Notion file, get maybe a short summary or what did I learn from this page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would create like a resource library for yourself, like where you have kind of all like, and then you label it by article, tweet, post, YouTube video, and then you kind of like you link it by the title or by what you learned. And you'll notice like at least for me, I keep it in my Notion. Like I have a command center for Notion. That's like where all my stuff lives, where everything for marketing exam lives, what tasks I need to be done. And my library, my content library, my resource center is part of that. And so it's something I revisit, and it's also something that like the individuals that are helping me build marketing examine have access to as well. And so it's like it's also a conversation. Like we talk about these things pretty often, because they'll go in there because I'm only curating my favorite content, and content that I feel like has actually made me better at my job or what I love to do. And so yeah, I trying to make it like I think James Clear talks about this too. But if you're trying to build a habit, it's like the more you see that thing, the easier it is to do that thing. So like, if it's like if I have constantly play PlayStation or like video games, and my PS4 is always out, it's much higher chance that I'm gonna go and play it because I see it all the time. If it's away and there's friction to me getting to it, and it's away in the
yeah,
closet at the top where I can't reach or something, then most likely I am not going to all the time go grab it, set it up, make sure that put the HDMI, get the controller, And so the same thing I think it comes with your best performing content. If you put it in an area where you constantly see it, you're gonna and somewhere where you are actively and you're constantly there, then you're going to increase the number of times that you actually consume that content. And so that's what I did with it's just worked for me. I'm specifically talking for me, but yeah, by putting it on
yeah,
my homepage of my command center, where my business model is, where our strategy is, it makes it something that I constantly go back to, because there's so much good content out there, and it sucks when you do forget about it, because it's fun to when you first learn something, you're in such a different mindset than you are when you revisit something 6 months later, and you're coming back to it with such like more mature, a such more mature lens with, and like say you've actually like used that tactic, or you've used what was said in that article, and now you come back to it with a different lens, it's so much better, and it continues to spur ideas. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents there. Is you got to make it where you actively see it, because yeah, the
And I,
browser thing, like you're never going to go back to that, right? Like I've done it. I've never there's no, I favorited so many things and I never go back to it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, sounds very familiar. I think you could probably even sell your library. You know, I think a lot of people would pay for like your collection.
but could you do that? Are you? Can I sell like a
And you can
book,
sell the Notion file,
but it's to a bunch of other people's content? You know what I mean?
but
Like,
it's like, but the curation is what the value is. Like I would pay for having like a curated list of the best marketing examples out there. I would pay for that. And
interesting.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, it's all other people's content, but it's still like the money is in the curation. I'd say.
for sure.
Mm.
I mean, definitely something I think of. Maybe I'll open it up. Maybe I'll use it as like a lead gen or something. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
something
could
along
be,
those lines. But yeah,
could be.
it's definitely brought in a ton of value to my life. So I and just doing this has it like honestly made me a better marketer. So it's something I encourage heavily to do is to try that. Like find one thing every day that makes you better at what your craft is. So whether that's art, whether it doesn't matter what your craft is, but try to find some piece of content or something to consume that makes you a little better.
Nice. Nice. So you've been on Twitter since 2017. How did you discover Twitter? Like, everybody knows Twitter, of course, but like, what would can you get back why you created an account, and how did your
Yeah.
first year look like?
So I actually haven't even like been active on Twitter a full year yet. Um, I don't know why I started in 2017. To be honest, I like my because I told you like my I started more so on like photo and video content. I was also always heavy on like YouTube content. Not I didn't really produce any, but like I produced more for Instagram and those things. So I never really was on Twitter until I joined the hustle. That's actually when I started to get serious on Twitter and started to try to grow. But like until whenever like this past April, that was actually when I first, I think it was April or March or so. If you go back, like you'll see it. Um, I don't have like a long tweet history. Like I literally started trying to grow my account in April when I decided to do 50 threads over 50 days. And I think at that time I had like 500 followers. Um,
Well,
and so 2017, I probably got on Twitter just to see all the politics on there because it was fun. It was entertaining. That's probably really why I got on there in 2017. But 2020 is when I really started to take it serious and try to grow on the platform. And I mean, the
nice.
reason I did that was because I knew I wanted to create a newsletter, and I knew the best newsletters kind of stem from Twitter, or the best newsletter creators stem from Twitter. You don't really see them on Instagram. Like I follow, I'd say a lot of business folks on Instagram and whatnot, and nobody talks about their newsletter or like promotes their newsletter on Instagram. And I think that's also because of the way the it's formatted and the way it's built. It's not like native to try to push your newsletter as much on Instagram. So Twitter was the best bet. The folks I want to get in front of are on Twitter actively all day, shit posting and doing their thing. And so it was like just my best bet was to try to grow on Twitter. Um, if I wanted to
How
then
did you
use
how
it.
did you mentioned the 50 tweets in 50 days?
Yeah.
How did you know get those? Did you have the ideas beforehand? Was that also part of your content library? Did you just pick and choose from that, or?
Yeah, so it was a mix of a lot of things. It was, so at the time, yeah, like I had 500 to 750 followers. I don't remember the exact number when I started the 50 threads over 50 days. And yeah, it all came from either personal experiences, things I was doing for the hustle, things I've done for the social agency, um, and then things I've read and deep dive that all came from that kind of content library that I've built for myself. And so, what I didn't do though, which I wish I would have done, was I wish I like on the weekends I would have wrote like 5 threads like on Saturday and 5 threads on Sunday. Because what it ended up happening was I literally wrote every thread every day that day, and it
Yeah,
was exhausting.
yeah,
At the end
it's
of
hard.
you don't realize how long 50 days is until you have to do something for 50 days straight,
Yeah.
and it was exhausting, but it was very rewarding in the sense that I ended it at like 40,000 followers or 44,000
Wow.
followers
Wow.
over 50 days. And I'll say this with a caveat that I had at the time, Trung wasn't as big as he is now, but like Trung was at that like 10, 15, 20,000 range at the time. And so like him retweeting my content definitely helped boost it. Right. But
Yeah.
the other obvious like I was able to then sometimes and share it on the hustle as well. But I think the main takeaway is like from the reason I did 50 threads over 50 days was the more you talk about one thing, you become the person that's known for that thing. And so my whole thing was I'm going to write 50 threads specifically on growth marketing, right? The skills that make a growth marketer, because I want to accelerate my formation of an identity. I want to form that my identity as someone that knows growth marketing, loves growth marketing, talks about growth marketing, so that it's now my content plays not as something that's reaching people, but now plays as a magnet, right? Most people try to think of their content as okay, I post this and it reaches people. And the way I see it is, no, if I talk about this and I create content around this, then it's actually a magnet that attracts the right people to me. And so the way I saw it was if I do this for 50 days, I'm going to accelerate that process. And then I'm going to be able to build a bridge to other things that I want to do. And so I did the first one and it performed well. Like at the time, it got like a few hundred likes, like probably 300-400 likes. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what happens if I build a quick squeeze page and I add at the end of this thread a CTA to get this same thread but in your newsletter. And then I got like 100 people the next day when I did it, or like 75, 100 people. I was like, oh, we're
Wow.
onto something here. So at the
Okay.
end of then 50 days, and me only talking about one certain topic, I had formed a newsletter with I think it was 4,000, 4,500 people over 50 days, but that all wanted to hear me just talk about one thing. And so I think that's like the one thing I've noticed now is like on Twitter, there's a lot of people trying to write Twitter threads to go viral, and their only goal is to go viral. So they write things that aren't relevant to what they want to be known for, and they'll like, I mean, something I don't know if you've noticed this, but like it's very easy to go viral if you talk about like a Reddit hack or a Google Drive hack or a
Yeah.
Microsoft hack. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. You're going viral, but you're attracting the wrong people. And you rather it go not as viral or not perform as well, but you attract the right people. Like
Yeah.
yesterday was literally the first thread I wrote that wasn't growth marketing focused. And it was like about Airbnb. And it was just like a link to the emails. And it was just because it was a cool story. But I
Yeah.
even approached it, like said it in my at the end of it. I was like, usually I don't write about this. Like because I don't like because I want to make sure that my content is attracting the right people, because then if those people, if I bridge them to my newsletter and I talked about a Google Drive hack, they sign up for my newsletter and now they're part of my list. Well, most likely they're going to drop off at some point because they signed up because of a Google Drive hack. They didn't sign up because I'm talking about copywriting. Or they didn't sign up
Yeah.
because I'm talking about, acquisition efforts. And so I'm very keen on like, what do you want your anchor to be? And then write about that, constantly write about that. And then, find the growth content that you want to use to grow. Um, because I've seen some that are my friends like just talk about things that they know will go viral, that a lot of people will like. But no, in my opinion, like you want to find the content that is perform like literally is distributed and is a magnet and is like pulling the people that you want to have in your crowd, so that when you try to sell something, if you try to sell something, or if you're trying to build something like a free email newsletter, you want to sell ads with it in it and monetize. Well, why would the person that's cared about your Google Drive hack click your B2B like your SaaS ad, right? Like, and you got to
Yeah.
think about that. So when I write my content, like I'm just focused on just hammering my identity in as a growth marketer, as someone that's like you, or I talk about like what I'm doing to grow what I'm building. Um, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. And so you started getting some newsletter subs, 4,500, and pretty quickly. What? how did you decide what to put in the newsletter? Because I've seen people almost literally copy pasting their threads in email. You did the same, but I think after a while you transitioned to something else, and then you've now really started monetizing it with I guess a Gumroad subscription. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
So, um, it was kind of what I touched on earlier was after I was done with the 50 threads, 50 days, I'm like, well, if someone's subscribed to my newsletter and they could get the same content on Twitter, my open rate's going to crash. And so that's where I was telling you, I like tested Five Tactic Tuesday. I tested Thursday Teardown. I tested these different forms of content and then had metrics that would mean something to me, right? Like any metric that I think there's vanity metrics and then there's metrics that actually matter. And so the ones for me were my open rate, replies, and then unsubscribe. If I tested a new format and I got a ton of replies, less unsubscribes, and a higher open rate, then I was like, okay, this is a great format, and then I would test it, ongoing the next week. And so that's how I then developed the Thursday Teardown. And then how I got to now Growth Marketing Examine was I was getting, because of the type of content I was writing, which was like these mini case studies, I would get an influx of questions of, okay, well, how can I do this for myself? How can I build a growth, like how can I integrate a growth loop into my company? How can I do? And so slightly influenced by like Lenny and what he's doing with Lenny's newsletter, I was like, okay, well, I could do this for growth marketing where I take my subscribers' questions and I write like deep dives. So like you want to learn how to get your first 1,000, which is what I wrote yesterday. You want to get your
Yep.
first 1,000 newsletter subscribers. I am going to tell you how you can get your first 1,000 newsletter subscribers. So that basically, like the way I see Marketing Examine, well, a few things. Like what I'm trying to build with Marketing Examine is Harvard Business Review, but for marketing. So like that's like my goal with the things I'm trying to do. So like free newsletter, paid newsletter, and then I have something else I'm going to release probably early next year. But like the first thing is with Marketing Examine is like I'm teaching you how things were done, and then now with Growth Marketing Examine, I'm really teaching you how you can do these things for you. And then I'm not going to talk about the third product yet, but like it'll be an extension of that. But yeah, the main thing that I did to like change the content from Twitter threads to and the actual meat of the email was I tested different formats and tested to see I had certain metrics like that would determine if this was the winning piece of content or the winning theme, and then I used that, scaled it to now what at least marketing examined is, and then with growth marketing examined, I basically I used Gumroad one because I work at Gumroad, and it was like it's obviously like a good if I did that. Like I couldn't launch it on Substack or you know what I mean. Like there's no way I could do that. And so I really used Gumroad to ship my MVP. I was like I hit it like set a benchmark number. If I get these amount of subscribers, then I'll run with this. If not, I'll literally just refund everybody their money. And I exceeded that, and I mean it's doing great, and so now it's just scaling that and actually building the media company around Marketing Examine. So I just brought on a developer full time, and so we're literally building out everything for Marketing Examine, the blog, the video library. It's going to have the membership site. So right now it's living on Gumroad for the ease of it, right? It's like very
Yep.
friction. It's very easy for me to just like
No
launch it.
cost,
Yeah,
quickly
exactly.
to test, if this is something that's going to stick or not, and
Yeah,
then you can build your own.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So that's kind of what we're working on now is like really scaling this and make my goal with Marketing Examine, like I said, is I want it to be like the best content hub for marketers, that you get there and it's like the time to value like ratio is so fast. Like you get on there and within the next 5 seconds you're either learning something or becoming accelerating something within your job or your startup. And so everything I'm structuring and I'm trying to build is to make that possible in a reality. And then the paid products are so that I could fund, to be honest, like everything that I'm doing from the paid side is so that I could fund more free shit. Like, so I could just do more free things for subscribers, and so that I could continuously put out more content that's outside of me too. Like I don't want to be the only one producing content for Marketing Examine. I want to have other people producing content for Marketing Examine that are just amazing at their craft, and so the only reason I'm launching paid products is obviously to help them and to tackle certain problems, but it's so that I could fund building out more free content. Um,
Yeah. And one of the things I think you're doing really well in your growth marketing exam is you also have a lot of visuals, different styles, different, value propositions, I guess, per image. How do you come up with that, and how do you make them, or who do you hire
I
to
do
create
them
something like that?
all my own on my own. So it's very time consuming. Are you speaking like the case study or like the Gumroad sales page or like?
Yeah. So, for example, you had the landing page, the ultimate guide to landing page. There are a lot of visuals in there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So first off, thanks for being a subscriber because I saw that you were one and that was
you're welcome.
awesome. So I really appreciate it. Yeah. So that it took me a lot of time. I think those because there's like 30 plus visuals. I think
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
one. And so yeah, that's one of the things that's like literally on the list to do is like I told myself I'm gonna make visual from the visual perspective, I'm gonna make the first couple to set like a standard, and then I'm gonna hire someone that can now look at what I'm doing and be like, okay, now I know what to do. And so the way I'm even gonna try to break down how I plan on writing these and being able to scale this operation is like so I send a case study every 10 days, right? That's the what I do. So like you got one November 10th, and then you got November 20th, and then you got one yesterday, just November 30th, and you'll get the next one December 10th. So what I think about doing is I create a Notion page and I outline everything, like the main bullet points, the main talking points, what's important, what's not, and then what I'm gonna do is, and I have to do that within a 5 day span. And then so all the research, all everything gets put into that Notion page. Then I get on Loom and I talk for 20, 30, 45 minutes, depending on how long it needs to be taken. And I condense everything into a video. And then I get that video to a copywriter, and the copywriter then turns it into the rough draft on like say day 7, day 8. And then I revise it. And then based on that, I get to someone that does visuals and does the visuals for it. That's the process I'm aiming for. Right now, I haven't touched on the visual part yet. So far, I've been doing visuals, and so like the landing page guide one, I didn't finish. I sent it out like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. That November 20th, and I was up probably till 2 or 3, like finishing visuals on that one. I remember like
yeah.
specifically, my eyes were just like burning, and I was like
Yeah.
hoping
I need to ship
all
this.
the
Yeah.
visuals are right. Yeah, I was like, I hope these are right. So like the next morning, I got up early so I could like go back over them because like when you look at something too long, it almost all like seems to blend in. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that that's not happening. But that's how I try to. I hope to plan on scaling the operation, but that's also like a challenge too. Is like finding a great writer that has like a knack for marketing. Like they have
Yeah.
that they're able. My biggest thing is like you got to be able to communicate like complicated things in a very simple fashion, and so that's like the main thing I'm hoping to look for and find in like a good writer. Um, is that, but yeah, man, it's definitely the visuals part. It's hard. That part's hard. Doing it
Yeah.
on your own.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, but then you also know how to, I guess, export that. How to, get somebody else to do it. If you know what the nitty gritty details are, then
Exactly.
cool.
That's what I told my like I keep telling myself. It's like I'm doing I'm doing it now so that I understand the process. If I don't ever understand what needs to be done, then how can I delegate? Right? How
Yeah.
can I automate this? How can I delegate this if I don't even really know what being on the ground and doing the work feels like? Um, but then like on the other end, if like you're ever trying to scale something, then it's like you can't do everything. And that's what I was like referring to earlier with like my dad. I watched him scale, but I saw him hit the limit. I saw him like hit the roof where, look, you're a one man operation and you can't go past this because you're running out of time. you know,
Yeah.
just because you drink more coffee doesn't mean you have more hours in the day. You just, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
being able to see that and be aware of it. Because that was another thing I didn't do well when I first ran the agency for like the first year and a half. I wanted to like keep all the profit, not really, but like I keep the profits for myself in the sense of like, oh, I was like, the agency's making this much. I don't want to pay because I was young. I was like, I've never gotten this much money in my before, and
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like frugal about it. But then a year and a half in, I'm exhausted, and I see the first few gray hairs coming out, and I'm like, I need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
delegate. Like I need
Yeah.
to hire people. I need to where are my weaknesses? Because that's exactly where I'm going to hire first when it came to really like producing results for clients. And so that's something that I learned from there, and that I want to make sure I tackle early with marketing examine and growth marketing examine and these other things I want to do, because I don't want to hit like areas of just like flatlining and like minuscule growth, right? Like I want to be up and trending to the right. And so I know that the more I could bring on people that are better at me in a lot of areas, then the better it's going to be for everyone, especially for members and subscribers. Because if I'm not strong in certain areas, then like it's going to only reflect on the work that gets sent to members, and I
Yeah.
that's the last thing I want, right?
Yeah.
So trying to learn as we go, but it's fun. It's fun.
Great, man. Alex Garcia, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. I learned a ton. Where can people find you, and what are you up to?
Yeah, man.
Share your
One, I
links.
appreciate you so much for having me on, and I appreciate you for being a member. Literally, I did see your name, and I was like, oh, that's. I was genuinely very excited. So,
You're
thank
welcome.
you very much for that. And then, secondly, mostly on Twitter, Alex Garcia underscore ATX. Um, Instagram is the same thing, Alex Garcia underscore ATX, but that's mostly just pictures of my dog and probably me like
Different
at the
content.
gym. Yeah, it's nothing educational or anything like really marketing related. I need to do a little more there. But yeah, and then marketingexamine.com. If Bluehost gets this fixed, then it's marketingexamine.com.
Cool.
But yeah, man, that's where people could find me, and where we could communicate. Thank you.